ride and drive. So behind me, there are some Autel 40 kilowatt DC chargers ready to ramp up and charge up all the trucks behind me. So rather than looking at me, I'm going to flip this around. See the two chargers. I'm going to try to give you a walkthrough of the different trucks here today. And the first one up is Daimler. Yeah, I know you're thinking Mercedes-Benz. No, Daimler Truck spun off, and part of their empire of commercial vehicles is freightliner, very popular in the US. The Cascada model is one of the best-selling Class 8 semi-trucks, and this is the E-Cascada. So this is a 6x2 that refers to the 6 wheel positions, so dual rear axles. This could have, since it's a 6x2 or a 6x4, it could be also, this is going to have up to 470 horsepower. This uses Detroit E-axle. So if you're familiar with Detroit diesel, the term, they've modernized and they're getting into the E-axle business. So essentially it's a large electric motor mounted to that heavy duty axle assembly. So it makes a nice powertrain. And since Detroit diesel is part of also the Daimler truck empire that includes freightliner, that's what they're using. And this is the dual motor version. You can see, so each of the 2 rear wheel sets are powered. This has a, let's see, this one then would have a 438 kilowatt hour battery. And this is rated at 82,000 pounds of gross vehicle weight. That's a second E-Cascada, and these are going to be available for people to ride in. These Class 8 trucks, of course, you need to have a commercial driver's license. I don't, so I'll just be sitting later on today in the passenger seat. The other vehicle here, this is an EM2, so that's a medium duty. That could be a Class 6 or a Class 7. I think based on what they had said in the brochure before the show, this was going to be a Class 6. But I could be wrong. If it's a Class 6, it's a 194 kilowatt hour battery, and it can go as large as 291 in the Class 7. So this can be upfitted in a variety of ways. Again, it's a medium duty truck, and that's still pretty big though, of course. Between 180 and 250 miles, depending on which battery, the Class 6 or 7 battery. And charging can take anywhere from 0 to 80%, as little as an hour for the Class 6, which has a smaller battery, or an hour and a half. But most of these, they get their job done throughout the day. If you want to know what type of vehicle this could be used for, yeah, obviously this is a stake truck application, but if you ever get a refrigerator delivered, that's going to be a Class 6 truck, usually with a big box in the back instead of open like that. And then we have Freightliner custom chassis. Let's go around the front of this one. So this is a step van, sometimes called a step-in van. And this one too is all electric. So let me take a step back here. Nice day, of course, in Vegas. So this is the Freightliner custom chassis underneath. And they use, this is a Class 4 or class up to a Class 6. 246 kilowatt hour battery, and this will use the Dana TM4. Sometimes you'll hear it referred to as the Sumo. So that is a power plant, the electric motor that gets used for this one, and a number of applications. You'll see these used for last mile delivery, some of the bigger cargo areas. So not so much Amazon, but more like FedEx or UPS will use larger step-in vans like this. Now this is not an electric vehicle. So this is trying to maximize the use of existing fuels, fossil fuels, through aerodynamics. This is the Shell Starship. And this one too, I did get advance notice to see if I was interested in going for a ride in this. Certainly is sleek looking and maybe even more aerodynamic than 2 of the other semis that I don't see. I think they're further down the road, but one of them, Tesla, and then the other one is a Tesla-like vehicle. Now here we have BYD. BYD does final assembly of school buses in Southern California, so that helps them to meet the requirements for domestic content. This is a Type A bus. This is all electric. So buses go Type A, B, C, D in the US. A Type D bus has a flat front nose, so it gets a couple of extra rows. A Type A is the smallest type. Sometimes you'll see these built off like a Ford E-Transit or a Ford Transit, and sometimes you'll see them built off of cutaway vans. Let's take a look at the charge point on the port on this one. And this one does have a handicap ramp in the back. So CCS, just what you would expect it to be. And this will be an interesting one too. I may go for a ride in this one. I've not driven a electric school bus, but if you follow my channel, I did do a pretty extensive review of the Type C school buses. That's the most common one, I would say, or the most quintessential. So it's a longer version and can carry more students. This is the Ram ProMaster EV. I also did a review of this one, and I drove this one at the Work Truck Show in Indianapolis. So this is the package delivery version. What this is, it's a super high roof. You can see just how high the roof line is on this one. It has that sliding side door. And if you see some of these, you'll see used by Amazon currently are the combustion engine version, so not the electric version. This is the electric version, and that sliding door, the step. Oh, and let's go around back. Again, if you're more interested in more details of this, I've got a whole video on it. You can see the super high rear roll-up door. It's really light too. It's made of aluminum. This one here, this is a natural gas Peterbilt truck. So not all electric vehicles here. You're going to start to see, well, just as I was saying that, you're going to see a lot of electrics, still some natural gas, some fuel efficiency savings for conventional combustion engine vehicles, as well as hydrogen fuel cell. So this is a Toyota using a Kenworth truck. So Kenworth and Peterbilt are both part of PACCAR Group. That's how I pronounce it. I'm not sure if that's how everybody pronounces it. But so this is a zero-emission hydrogen fuel cell. I'm going to do a video on hydrogen, just listing out some of the, I guess, promises and perils. So in this rear area here, there would be, I've seen GM do a similar thing, and actually there's a Hyundai and I believe a Honda also fuel cell concept. When we go down the line here, there would be hydrogen cylinders in there, stacked one on top of the other. So there might be 4 of them in there just by the eyeball of it. And then it still needs a battery, a lithium-ion battery, smaller than a full electric semi-truck, but still it needs an electric battery nonetheless, because the fuel cell can't put out enough energy in a short period of time to be able to move the truck up hills when it needs to, that peak on-demand power. So it requires some battery to give it that instantaneous boost. So let's take a look down in here. And so there's a drive shaft going to the first unit, and then it's a pusher setup in the back. So moving on down the line, this is also I believe a hydrogen Kenworth. I can go to my notes, but instead I will skip that and go to what I definitely know is the Hyundai hydrogen truck. So Hyundai made a little bit of a surprise, I think, at CES this year, in that they really talked up hydrogen again. It seemed like for a company that has done so incredibly well in its cars with the transition to battery electric, it caught people, I think, a little bit off guard, talking so much about hydrogen, even hydrogen production, which is really, I think, the biggest challenge. These trucks work. It's just where are you going to get the hydrogen from that doesn't produce more CO2, more greenhouse gases, and is affordable? And that's a challenge. Similar in the back area, that's not going to be a sleeper cab, so there would be not only the fuel cell stacks back there, but also the hydrogen cylinders. Moving on down the line, we have international. So I showed you before the EM2 which is the freightliner, and this is its international competitor, the MV Electric. So M for medium duty. This one is also a class 6 or 7, 210 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate. So that's the less expensive but heavier battery chemistry that has really become very popular in China. Even BYD makes premium vehicles over $100,000 that still use that chemistry and does so very effectively. This has about 135 miles of range, and I'll mention it a few times in reviewing the trucks here. Dana TM4, that's the electric motor. So you can see down here, that's where the 210 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate batteries. And then back here would be the Dana motor controller, all that, powering the rear axles. Oh, and I'll point out something too on this one. This is kind of interesting. So it looks like that's an e-power takeoff. I'm gonna guess that's what it is. Oh no, so that's a, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody wants to put this in the comments, this is a pusher setup. So the electric motor is there pushing drive shaft to the rear wheels. So other times the motor can be put up front here, but that's mostly taken up by batteries. That's the cooling module for the batteries for the electric motor. And so this is a pusher setup on the international MV Electric. Look at that, I'm not even halfway up the row and I'm already out of breath. So this is a yard tractor, an all electric yard tractor, orange. I just like their logo. It's kind of, I don't know, it seems kind of fun. A good use case for this, actually, yard tractors to me should all be electric. There are a lot of them that are propane. For example, I live near Detroit. I live near the Stellantis Jefferson North plant, and there's 2 complexes, and they move trailers back and forth between the 2 of them to get their right assemblies to the right place. They use propane yard tractors to move the trucks back and forth because there's communities nearby and they want healthy air. This is an even better solution because you really don't have to worry too much about charging. It's always going to go back to the same location. It never leaves maybe a half-mile radius, so good application. I think, well, most of them are on the inside because it's not all that exciting to drive one. There's only one passenger seat, there's only one seat, so you need to have a CDL license if you're going to drive that one, and that's why there aren't a lot of them out here. On the inside there are. So Ryzen, I was at first kind of like, meh, not going to talk about them. And then I looked into them some more. So Ryzen is yet another brand of the Daimler truck empire, I think is the term I used before. Ryzen, so this is a class 4 or 5 truck, and they haven't fully established, or they haven't come out officially said it, but it's pretty obvious that this is a Mitsubishi Fuso e-Canter. So that's the name of the truck. There's the electric version that they sell in Japan and Asia, and it's part of the Daimler truck group of companies. And they said, you know what? There's a market for class 4 and 5 cab over trucks in cities doing deliveries. We should make this available here. So my first reaction when I saw Ryzen, I'm like, is this another, no-name startup brand? But nope. Oh, they even put it on there, a Daimler truck brand, which certainly gives it some credibility. All right, this is the one I got to get in later on today. So I did do a very detailed review of this. I interviewed their VP of engineering at the Work Truck Show. Let me tell you about it. First of all, it's got 4-wheel independent suspension. That is unique. And it's unique because all 4 of these corners, the corners, are identical. And so, try not to get in the shade here. So you can see it's a 4-wheel independent suspension. Boy, that's really unique. What else is unique? It's got 4-wheel disc brakes that are by wire. So they are activated not mechanically or hydraulically, but through electric controllers. It's also got 4 motors, one at each quarter, so it's a quad motor setup. That's interesting too, and it's by wire. Lastly, it's got 4-wheel steering by wire. That's because all 4 corners are capable of doing steering, doing braking, doing power, and independent suspension. So it's a truly unique setup. Definitely want to get in on this one. And you can see it's configurable to different battery pack sizes. You can add length to the wheelbase. You know what? If they're going to drive this away, let's see if we can get a look at the rear wheel steering. Let's see. So is a startup company that brings a technology startup mindset to the world of commercial trucking. So, you know, you look at some of the other competitors, they are a very traditional design. Kind of thought things out and started with a clean sheet. So very interesting truck. I think there's going to be a long line for it. One of my favorite companies is Lion Electric. This is their Lion 5, so it's a class 5, actually, or a class 6. It can go up to EV. And this one, I did an interview at the Work Truck Show, never published it, so I'm going to have to get to it this time. They're a Quebec company. They're starting to make their own batteries. So yeah, actually, when I was in Indianapolis in March, they were still showing that they were using, oh, there goes the Let's see if we can get a look at whether or not that's too far away to see if the wheels turn. But when they were first working on this, they were using BMW i3 batteries. BMW kept making those battery modules because some other companies kept using them. They were like, hey, this is pretty good. It's the right size, it's the right capacity, they're dependable. And so they kept using them, and BMW kept making them. Well, eventually they informed all the people using them. It's like, hey, we don't want to make these things anymore. Lion now has in Quebec a battery plant up and running. So they are using their own battery packs for these trucks. So they've exhausted all the previous inventory, and they're going to go ahead and do that going forward. Actually, this one, if you look online, they make an ambulance version of this. So picture a box on the back with lights, and it's really, really sweet looking. What is this? Yeah, it's electric. I do have an appointment scheduled with them to get into this. I didn't even ask if I'm going to be able to drive it or just sit in it or just move the thing up and down. I don't know, but this is an electric. They do offer a couple of different models. This is not a skid steer, a wheel steer. New terminology for me, I know. So we went over the Freightliner EM2. We went over the International MV Electric, and this is the Mack MD Electric. This one too, I did get some information on it previously, and we'll probably be putting a video out. I really dig the looks of this one. I know it's silly, but the copper Bulldog, I'm not sure if they were going for copper because electric vehicles use a lot of electrical conducting copper, or because the high voltage lines on electric vehicles that's more of an orange color. You could see anytime you see an orange cable like that, it means it's more than just 12 volts. So that one, actually this one in particular, this is probably 48 volts. That's a hydraulic pump, so an auxiliary pump that then runs the hydraulics and makes the dump go up and down. So for electric vehicles, they still use hydraulics, but they're powered by either the main battery, or sometimes they'll have a dedicated battery for running the accessories. I'm sure you know what this is, except it's in a different color. So this is the Rivian the RDV. This looks like the short wheelbase. I think this is the 500 model. And Rivian has, as of last year, They indicated that they were still going to be selling them to Amazon so that they can fill out their fleet. But Amazon, who is an investor in Rivian, said, you know what, why don't you find other people who might want to buy them too? So that's what they're doing here. Sweet looking vehicle. I know they've been promoting use of this a lot. One other thing, so this is another fuel cell Class 8 truck. Like I said, there's a lot of them. And I mentioned yard tractors. Here's another one. This is by capacity. And again, these don't go very far. They might go from one part of the factory to another, one part of the depot to another, rather than tying up the big rigs to just jockey around trailers. They just use these. So truck comes in, it's fully loaded, it drops off the trailer, unhitches, and then takes the next one out. And once that trailer is full up, they got to get away from the dock, they use one of these. So they're just shuffling around all day. And like I said, they don't go very far. So if you have one charger on site, that's what you use. And they tend to measure these as far as the usage, not by miles, but by hours of operation. So really interesting application there. Bollinger. Remember Bollinger, the B1 and the B2, that was going to be that utilitarian pickup and SUV. They're still working on it. If you go to their website, they still have images. I think obviously they still have aspirations to make that cool vehicle, but they also need to make money. So this is the B4. This is a Class 4 up to 15,500 pound GVWR. So that's how the ratings work. About 185 miles is what to be expected. Charges at 110 kilowatts. And this uses a 158 kilowatt hour battery. Actually, it's two 79 kilowatt hour LFP. So that's that lithium iron phosphate batteries made by a new battery manufacturer, R Next Energy, or One. A number of these commercial truck applications are using them. They buy the chassis and the cab over from a separate company, and then they do the electrical integration. This also uses, I mentioned before, Dana as the TM4. This uses one of their E-axles. So I'll see if I can, it'll probably be easier going inside, but while I'm here, yeah, you can kind of see it. So there's the electric motor, and it's right mounted directly to the pumpkin of the rear axle and the differential. So that way the differential provides a gear reduction, and it's a nice modular assembly that you can just kind of pop in. Mullen has been, well, I should say, Mullen is the parent company of Bollinger, and they are also showing this is a Class 1 van. So this would be something more for city use, and this is an all-electric. Then we have the Tesla Semi. No, this is Windrose, and this is the one I'm hoping to get into. That's why I came out here early and didn't party all night. Windrose, this is the, let me get the name straight. It's the 600. Got my cheat sheets here. Let me make sure I get this right. The R600, and yes, it looks a lot like the Tesla Semi, which is down there. But you know what? If it's an aerodynamic design and a good design, why not use it? So 600 refers to the range in kilometers. So 600 kilometers, that's about 373 miles. Now, for any of these commercial trucks, they do not certify to the EPA, any of the medium or heavy duty, certainly like this. It's more of an agreement between the buyer and the manufacturer saying, we think you'll get 373 miles loaded in normal use. And if you happen to be driving in a hilly area and it's cold and it's windy, yeah, your mileage may vary. So definitely interested in this one. This has a 729 kilowatt hour battery. The chemistry, the manufacturer, I haven't had a chance to ask them of this, but you know what? I'm pretty sure it's going to be LFP. This is made in China, and It has a 960 kilowatt charging capability. Oh, perfect. This is going to be great. Let's see if I can see the plug. Because this is a Chinese vehicle, I'm guessing it's going to be GBT. No, look at that. Oh, it's CCS2. Okay, cool. Nice. So I'm going to come back to this one later on. And this one is more aerodynamic, per the manufacturer's claim, than the Tesla Semi. Why? Because of the mirrors up there. You could see in Europe and in China, they're allowed to use digital mirrors. So they can go ahead and replace those big, huge mirrors on the side. The US, we're studying that, but we haven't fully completed that assessment. The Department of Transportation and all the other regulatory bodies. So let's just spin around the back here. Another thing to note about this. So this was designed for the China market. And in China, they're allowed to, a tractor like this is allowed to haul up to 49 tons. So that's 49 metric tons, which equals, that's 1,000 kilograms. That equals to about 108,000 pounds. In the US, they're limited to 82,000 pounds. So does that mean this thing is built stronger than the Tesla Semi? I don't know that you could say that. I mean, it's certainly being used for more, carrying more weight, but are the trucks here built less durable, less rugged? That's speculation at this point, but it is rated at a higher capacity for use in China. They want to sell this here. I'm guessing that's why they have it here. And if that's so, they're going to have to ramp that down to 82,000. So this is a quad motor setup that I'm going to have to come back and get some better images of. But that's per the press release, it is a quad motor with 1,395 pounds of peak horsepower. Most of these commercial trucks, they'll specify a peak horsepower and then a continuous power because those electric motors can't run forever. I mentioned yard tractors. This is more of a city tractor. You could use it for, shuffling trailers around the yard. It's better intended for use in urban areas to move trailers to the grocery store, etc. So the cab doesn't have to be as super comfortable as other semi trucks, but it just has to have a space for a passenger. Blue Arc is part of the Shift group. So Shift makes lots of different body configurations. They do their body builder, and they have lots of different brand names. You can see down along the side here, Magnum, Duramag, I've heard of, Blue Arc, Biltmore. So, and hey, look, 225 miles of city driving. This is an all electric, and they recently announced that they secured an order from FedEx for these. So if you've seen a step van like this before, running on gasoline, coming into your neighborhood, starting up the motor, stopping, I think it's 150. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. But I think it was an order for 150 of these, probably going to be utilizing them in California. So this can be a class 3 or 4 step van, and it's got about 200 miles of range, and on the side there they claim that city range, lots of stop and go. It does a little bit more because you don't have the aerodynamic factor, and you can see they do a pretty good job of trying to make it aerodynamic, but it's hard to cover up the fact that that is just a big box to deliver packages to the last mile destination. If this is a class 3, it's got a 164 kilowatt hour battery. If it's the class 4L, it gets a little bit smaller battery. This is another yard tractor by Kalmar. Workhorse. If you want to look up their history, they've been trying hard to get into the electric delivery van market. They had a couple of other models previously, but this is the one they want to focus on going forward. This is 1,000 cubic feet of cargo volume, 210 kilowatt hour battery, about 150 miles of range, and it can DC fast charge up to 100 kilowatts. So you can see it's not a concept. I mean, this thing is ready to go. So that's why they're at this show, to try and secure some more orders. Cybertruck, always fun seeing. I've seen a lot of them. I went to the SAE show, and I think Tesla's probably sold hundreds of these things to different companies who want to tear them down or rip them apart or benchmark them in other ways. And now, last but not least, we get to the Tesla Semi. So I told you earlier about the Windrose, the R600. Obviously, you know Tesla Semi. This one is, like I said, in the US, it's limited to 82,000 GBWR. That's actually more than a traditional semi-truck. A traditional semi-truck is limited to 80,000. They gave them an extra 2,000 pounds because battery electric trucks are heavier. I talked before about the aerodynamics. This one is a 0.36 coefficient of drag, which is very slippery, but it's less aerodynamic than the Windrose. And you can see why. Those huge mirrors just really, I mean, it's like parachutes on this thing. If they get approval to put digital mirrors, I'm sure they will switch over to that. They might even be able to retrofit it. Horsepower, they haven't given out exact estimates. It's a little over 1,000 horsepower peak. 1,020 is a number I've seen. They haven't specified the battery capacity, but it's believed to be about 900 kilowatt hours. And that's using the 2170 cylindrical cells still. At one point, they were talking about using 4680, and all indications I've seen is they're not using 4680 yet. About 500 miles of range, depending on what you're hauling, where you're hauling. And if you want to see an interesting thing, lots of people have covered this. Run on Less is an event done by the North American Council for Freight Efficiency. They did a very deep dive of this in operation with PepsiCo out of Sacramento. Lots of good information from that. They had 750 kilowatt V4 chargers on site to recharge these things. And based on the cab, or based on the data that they shared, it appears that they were charging at about 650 kilowatts very regularly. So interesting here too. There has been speculation that they might offer a sleeper cab. This is not a sleeper cab. It looks like it is from the side, but clearly when you look out back, there's a lot of space in there. Elon promised there would be a sleeper cab. Let's see if they deliver. These are best used for regional, not long haul, although they do want to build out a charging network between their plant in Northern California and their plant in Texas, their Gigafactory. Certainly they can do long haul, but there's plenty of applications where they don't have to do long haul trucking. There's lots of regional applications. And the charging connector, it's not going to let me in. The port that they use, the plug type they use, it's not NACS, it's not CCS, it's not the triangular megawatt charging. It's what I've been told is an earlier version of megawatt charging. It's kind of like the design proposal number one. They were still kicking around the different designs, and Tesla said, we need a design, so we're running with it. And then they wound up changing it to something that actually looks nicer. So you can see how much extra space there is back here. Certainly enough room for a sleeper cab, although they would have to do something about these two modules. There are probably battery control modules in there and other electronics to make this all go. This is a tri-motor setup. The rear axle is a single motor, electric motor, and that is continuously in operation. And then the front axle has peaker motors, if you will, for acceleration and performance. So those kick in as needed. Anyway, I am at the end of the line. Did I miss anything? Nope, I'm gonna switch this around. Oops. So hope you enjoyed this. And I can't see. What a way to end this video. Well, I'm gonna just end it this way. This will come up, and you probably can't see now because I'm directly in the sun, but anyway, hope you enjoyed this. I enjoyed it. I'm gonna go back and shoot some more video of the Windrose because I don't know when we'll be able to see one of those again, and the Tesla Semi. So check out videos on a number of these vehicles, especially I want to drive the I want to get in the Tesla Semi and the Windrose, and then we'll see what else I can get into and put together some content. Thanks for watching.